Hey guys, we're in day one of our Abraham readings, and we're starting in Genesis 12, which is where we first meet Abraham. It says in verse 1, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you," okay? And so that's the first promise, is God's going to give him land. He says, "And I will make you into a great nation." That's the second promise, which is that he would be a nation, the nation of Israel. Abraham is the father of the nation of Israel. He says, "I'll bless you, make your name great." And then he says this is the third part of the promise in verse 3. He says, "And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So there's the third promise. So I want you to pay attention. There are three promises here. Number one, land. Number two, a great nation. And number three, all the families of the earth will be blessed. Now that last promise is really about us today as Christians, because as you're going to see in these readings over the next 28 days, we are the ones who are blessed, Gentiles, non-Jews, right? The lineage of Abraham is the Jewish lineage, but Gentiles will also be blessed. And notice that this was God's plan from the very beginning in Genesis 12. So as you read on, you're going to see that Abraham was about 75 years old when this took place. He ends up obeying, and he goes to the land of Canaan. And while he was there, the Lord appeared to Abram and he said, "To your offspring I'll give this land," right? So he was in the land that he would eventually have in his family. His offspring would eventually have the land. So Abram built an altar there to the Lord. And as you read on, he ends up going to Egypt because there was a famine in the land. So he leaves the land of promise and he goes into Egypt. And it's there that we learn this first story about Abraham. And it's really an interesting story. I'll let you read it for yourself. But really the point of the story is Abraham is definitely not perfect. We're going to see that over and over in the Old Testament, that none of these characters are perfect. And Abraham certainly isn't perfect either. So it wasn't because Abraham was necessarily a great guy that God chose him. God chose him because God is a great God. So we end up chapter 12. It says Pharaoh gave his men orders concerning Abraham, and they send him away with his wife and all that he had. And so chapter 12 is where we first meet Abraham. Why don't you read it for yourself and go ahead and journal on it, talk about it with a group or a mentor. We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 13.